I can still hear the crystal glasses clinking at my sister Madison's promotion party. The sound echoes in my memory like a bitter reminder of that night, the night that changed everything. The elite of Boston's financial world had gathered in the grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton, all to celebrate Madison Blake, the youngest VP in Sterling Financial's history. I stood in the corner, wearing a dress I'd designed myself, watching my parents beam with pride as Madison commanded the room. At 32, she was their crowning achievement. Harvard Business School graduate, rising star in finance, and now Vice President of Mergers and Acquisitions. Eleanor. My mother's voice cut through my thoughts as she appeared beside me, champagne flute in hand. At least fix your hair. Everyone here is a potential investor. I resisted the urge to touch the dark curls I'd carefully styled. My hair is fine, Mom. Fine isn't good enough in this world, she sighed, smoothing her own perfectly coiffed silver hair. Look at your sister. She understands presentation, networking. At least one daughter made it. The words stung, even though I'd heard variations of them for years. Ever since I'd turned down a position at a prestigious consulting firm to start my own business, I'd been the family disappointment. Never mind that my online fashion platform was growing steadily. In their world, if you couldn't see the corner office, success didn't exist. Ellie? Madison's voice carried across the room as she approached, her Louboutins clicking against the marble floor. Come meet Richard Sterling. He's interested in hearing about your little website. I forced a smile as she dragged me toward a distinguished-looking man in his 60s. Richard Sterling owned half of Boston's financial district, including the building where Madison now had her corner office. So, he said, peering at me over his glasses, Madison tells me you run some sort of fashion blog? Actually, I started. Stitch and Style is a technology platform that connects independent designers with... Oh, how fun, he interrupted, already looking past me for someone more important. A hobby business. Well, keep at it. Not everyone can be as driven as your sister. Madison's laugh tinkled like the crystal glasses. Ellie likes to do her own thing. But enough about that. Did you hear about the Maxwell merger? I excused myself and headed for the bar, needing something stronger than champagne. The bartender had just handed me a gin and tonic when I overheard two men in suits talking nearby. The numbers on the Maxwell deal seemed too good to be true, one muttered. Everything about Sterling's golden girl seems too good to be true, the other replied. But who's going to question success? I filed the conversation away, along with the dozens of other whispers I'd been collecting over the past year. Something about Madison's meteoric rise didn't add up, but nobody wanted to look too closely at a winning streak. My phone buzzed. A notification from my company's analytics dashboard. Another spike in user engagement. While Madison worked in her glass tower moving imaginary millions around, I was building something real. Not that my family would ever understand that. Still checking your Instagram likes. Madison appeared beside me, her smile sharp. You should really think about getting a real job, Ellie. I could put in a word at Sterling. I have a real job, I replied evenly. In fact, we just closed our series of funding round. Her perfectly shaped eyebrows rose slightly. Oh, someone actually invested in your little project. Several someones. We raised $12 million. For a moment, her mask slipped. Something dark flashed across her face before the smile returned. How sweet. Well, don't let it go to your head. The tech bubble always bursts eventually. She sauntered away to rejoin her admirers, but not before I caught a glimpse of something else in her expression. fear. It was gone so quickly, I might have imagined it. But it made me think of all those whispers, all those numbers that seemed too good to be true. Later that night, in my downtown loft that doubled as Stitch and Styles' office, I opened my laptop and began digging. Madison had always been driven, but lately, her success had taken on a frantic edge. The Maxwell merger she'd orchestrated had made headlines for its unprecedented returns. Every deal she touched turned to gold, almost as if. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. When I opened it, I found an envelope on the floor. No sender, no markings. Inside was a USB drive and a note. Your sister isn't as golden as she seems. If you want the truth, look at the attached files. I stared at the drive for a long time before plugging it in. Years of working in tech had taught me about security risks, but something told me this was important. As files filled my screen, spreadsheets, emails, bank statements, my hands began to shake. The perfect daughter, the family success story, was nothing but a carefully constructed lie, and I was holding proof that would bring it all crashing down. My phone rang, making me jump. It was Madison. I hope you're not planning to do anything stupid with the information you just received, she said without preamble. My blood ran cold. How did you? I have eyes everywhere, little sister. Remember that. Now, delete those files and forget about them. Focus on your cute little fashion website and stay out of my business. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in the darkness of my loft, staring at my screen where evidence of her fraud glowed accusingly. She thought she could intimidate me, just like she always had. She thought I was still the quiet sister who played it safe. But she had no idea what I'd been building in the shadows while she basked in her false spotlight. She had no idea that I'd been preparing for this moment, gathering my own resources, building my own empire. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I'd been saving for a special occasion. Ms. Jang, this is Eleanor Blake. I believe we need to talk about Sterling Financial and my sister. Ms. Dang, one of the most ruthless corporate raiders in the business, had been following my company's progress with interest. She'd offered to back me in any venture I chose. I'd been waiting for the right opportunity. I was wondering when you'd call, she said. I assume you've seen the evidence? Yes, and I know exactly what to do with it. As I hung up, I looked at the photo on my desk, our family at Madison's college graduation, everyone beaming at her while I stood in the background. That dynamic was about to change, but not in the way anyone expected. Madison thought she was the only one who knew how to play the game. She was wrong. While she'd been building her house of cards, I'd been laying a foundation of steel and concrete. And when her empire of lies crumbled, I would be there to pick up the pieces. For pennies on the dollar. The morning after receiving the USB drive, I walked into my company's real office. Not the loft where I'd started, but the entire 10th floor of a downtown high-rise. 50 employees looked up from their desks as I passed, each one a reminder of what I'd built while my family was busy dismissing me. Morning, Ms. Blake. My assistant Thomas handed me a coffee. Ms. Jang called twice already. And there's something else. Sterling Financial stock dropped 15% in pre-market trading. I paused mid-sip. Any news about why? Rumors about irregularities in their recent merger deals. Nothing concrete yet, but the market's nervous. I nodded, hiding my smile. The wheels were already in motion. My office overlooked the financial district, with a perfect view of Sterling Financial's gleaming headquarters where Madison held court. But while her view came from borrowed power, mine was built on something real. Stitch and Style had revolutionized the fashion industry, connecting independent designers directly with manufacturers and consumers. We weren't just a platform. We were changing how the industry worked. Thomas, I called out, set up a meeting with our legal team and get me everything you can find about Sterling Financial's holdings, especially any distressed assets they might need to offload quickly. He raised an eyebrow but didn't question me. That's why I had hired him. He understood discretion. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Have you seen the news about Sterling? Your sister needs family support right now, not whatever scheme you're plotting. I deleted it without responding. Of course, she assumed I was plotting something. In her mind, I was always the jealous sister, never the successful one. The evidence on the USB drive had revealed the ugly truth behind Madison's perfect facade. She'd been cooking the books for years, inflating profits, hiding losses, and paying off auditors. The Maxwell merger that had made her famous, built on fraudulent valuations and insider trading. But I wasn't interested in exposing her. Not yet. I had bigger plans. Ms. Blake, Thomas appeared in my doorway. Your sister is here. Madison stormed in, her designer suit slightly wrinkled, a detail that spoke volumes about her state of mind. What did you do? She hissed, throwing a financial report on my desk. Our stock is in free fall. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. The perfect mask was cracking. I haven't done anything, Madison, but it seems the market is finally asking questions about those amazing returns of yours. Don't play innocent. Someone's been feeding information to our shareholders. Trading patterns show massive shorts being placed last week, right after you got that USB drive. I smiled. Sounds like you have a leak. Maybe you should focus on that instead of accusing your unsuccessful sister. Listen carefully. She leaned across my desk, her voice low and dangerous. If you try to destroy what I've built, I'll make sure everyone knows about your own creative accounting. My laugh caught her off guard. My accounting? Please, go ahead. Audit every penny. Unlike you, I actually built something real. Real, she scoffed. You sell dresses on the internet. No, I created a technology that's revolutionizing an entire industry. But you'd know that if you or our parents ever bothered to understand what I do. She straightened up, adjusting her jacket. Just stay out of my way, Ellie. You're playing a game you don't understand. After she left, I opened my laptop and sent an email to Ms. Zhang. Time for phase 2. The next week was chaos. Anonymous tips to financial regulators triggered a formal investigation into Sterling Financial. Madison appeared on CNBC, defending their practices, but the damage was done. Their stock dropped another 30%. I watched it all from my office, remembering every dismissive comment, every family dinner where my achievements were ignored in favor of Madison's latest triumph. Ms. Blake, Thomas interrupted my thoughts. The board of Sterling Financial just called an emergency meeting, and your mother's online one. I picked up the phone, already knowing what I'd hear. What have you done? Mom's voice was shrill. Your sister's career is being destroyed, and you're just sitting there watching. Actually, I replied calmly, I'm not just watching, I'm buying. What? Sterling stock. My company has been acquiring shares all week. At these prices, it's quite a bargain. Silence. Then, you planned this. You're trying to take over Sterling Financial. No, Mom. Madison destroyed Sterling Financial. I'm just here to pick up the pieces. I hung up and turned to Thomas. Get me Ms. Zhang. It's time to make our move. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. While Madison had been building her house of cards, I had been quietly amassing resources. Stitch and Style's success had given me significant capital, and Ms. Zhang's backing provided the rest. Now, with Sterling's stock in free fall, we could acquire controlling interest for a fraction of its real value. But first, the final blow had to fall. I opened the USB drive and began forwarding its contents to federal regulators. Within hours, the story broke across all major news networks. Sterling Financial BPACUSED of massive FRAD. Madison BLAK. The fall of a financial prototype. SECLAUNCESCRMINDL NVESTIG into Sterling DELINGs. My phone exploded with messages from family members. I ignored them all except one. From my father. "You're no longer my daughter." I stared at those words for a long time before replying. "I never was. Madison was your only daughter. I was just the disappointment who built an empire while you weren't watching." That night, as Sterling Financial's board met to deal with the crisis, I sat in my office with Ms. Zhang, watching the city lights flicker below. "They'll have to sell," she said, swirling her whiskey. "The question is, who will they sell to?" I smiled. "They'll sell to Phoenix Acquisitions." "Your shell company," she nodded approvingly. "They won't know it's you until it's too late." "Exactly. Madison might understand fraud, but she never understood real business. She never understood me. Tomorrow, I would begin the process of acquiring the company where my sister had built her fraudulent empire. The company that had made her the family's golden child while I was dismissed as a failure. But tonight, I allowed myself a moment to savor the irony. The little fashion website they'd mocked had given me the power to buy their precious Sterling Financial for pennies on the dollar. And this was just the beginning. The morning of the Sterling Financial Board meeting dawned bright and cold. I dressed carefully in a suit I designed myself. Midnight blue, impeccably tailored. Today, I would step out of the shadows and into my full power. The lobby of Sterling Financial was chaos. Reporters crowded the entrance, cameras flashing. Security guards struggled to maintain order as protesters waved signs demanding justice for defrauded investors. I walked through it all, Thomas at my side carrying the acquisition paperwork. The same security guard who had once stopped me, claiming I didn't look like I belonged here, now held the door open with a respectful nod. The boardroom fell silent as I entered. Madison sat at the far end. Her perfect facade finally cracked. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her designer outfit slightly askew. Our parents flanked her like protective shields, but even they couldn't protect her now. Richard Sterling himself sat at the head of the table, looking every bit as old as his 70 years. The last week had aged him considerably. "What is she doing here?" Mom demanded, standing up. "This is a private board meeting." I took a seat directly opposite Madison. "I'm here representing Phoenix Acquisitions. We own 30% of Sterling Financial's shares, which entitles us to a seat at this table." "Phoenix Acquisitions?" Madison's voice cracked. "That's impossible. They're the ones who've been buying up our stock." I smiled, sliding a document across the table. "Not just buying. As of this morning, we've made an offer to acquire controlling interest in Sterling Financial. The paperwork is all there." The room erupted in chaos. Board members frantically flipped through the documents while Madison stared at me, realization dawning in her eyes. "You," she whispered. "You're Phoenix." "Surprise, sister dear." Richard Sterling cleared his throat. "The offer appears legitimate. Given our current situation, the board must consider it. You can't be serious." Madison slammed her hand on the table. "She orchestrated this whole thing. She's trying to steal my company." "Your company?" I laughed softly. "You mean the company you nearly destroyed with your fraud? The company whose stock is worth less than half what it was 2 weeks ago?" "That company?" Our father stood up, his face red with anger. "How dare you come in here like this? After what you've done to your sister?" "What I've done?" I met his gaze steadily. "I built a legitimate billion-dollar company while you were all fawning over Madison's house of cards. I created real value while she created fake profits. The only thing I'm guilty of is seeing an opportunity when it presented itself." "The board needs to discuss this privately," Richard Sterling announced. "Ms. Blake, both Ms. Blakes, please wait outside." In the hallway, Madison grabbed my arm. "Why? Why did you do this to me?" "To you?" I pulled free from her grip. "This isn't about you, Madison. It never was. This is about building something real, something lasting, something you never understood. I built something real. I was successful. You built a pyramid scheme in a designer suit." I corrected her. "And now, it's crumbling, just like every house of cards eventually does." Our mother approached, her heels clicking angrily on the marble floor. "Your father and I will never forgive you for this betrayal." I smiled sadly. "Like you never forgave me for choosing my own path, for building something you couldn't understand or control. I stopped needing your forgiveness a long time ago." The boardroom doors opened. Richard Sterling emerged, looking grave. "The board has voted to accept Phoenix Acquisition's offer," he announced. "Given the circumstances, we feel it's in the best interest of our shareholders." Madison crumpled into a nearby chair, her perfect world finally shattered completely. I turned to Thomas. "Please escort the former VP to clear out her office and call security. I want all her files preserved for the federal investigation." "You can't do this," Madison shrieked as security approached. "This is my company." "Not anymore," I replied calmly. "Oh, and Madison? The corner office has a lovely view. I think I'll keep it." Over the next few hours, I watched from my new office as Madison was escorted from the building, carrying a box of personal items. Our parents left shortly after, not even glancing up at my window. My phone buzzed. A text from Ms. Zhang. "Beautifully executed. Your sister never saw it coming." I smiled, remembering all those family dinners where they dismissed my little website. Now Stitch in Style was worth billions, and I'd just acquired one of Boston's oldest financial institutions. The next morning, the headlines told the story. "Tech H-E-N-T-R-E in your EQIRES-STERLING financial. Eleanor BLAK. From Fayion STORTUP to financial POWERATOUSE. Sterling SVANDAL. One set STER falls as ANO Daver rises." A week later, I received an invitation to a family dinner. I almost laughed at their predictability. Now that I'd proven my success, they wanted to reconcile. I sent back a simple response. "Too busy running 2 companies. Maybe next time." Madison eventually pleaded guilty to multiple counts of securities fraud. She served 5 years in a minimum security prison. Our parents sold their house to pay legal bills and moved to Florida, where they presumably still tell everyone about their successful daughter. Only now they mean me, though they never mention how I achieved that success. As for me, I merged Sterling's legitimate assets with my tech empire, creating something entirely new. The same analysts who once dismissed me as a fashion blogger now write lengthy profiles about my business genius. But the real victory wasn't in the acquisition or the headlines. It was in proving that success doesn't always wear a designer suit or work in a corner office. Sometimes it builds quietly, steadily, until it's strong enough to reshape the world. Last week, I received a letter from Madison, newly released from prison. "I understand now," she wrote. "You aren't just building a company. You are building revenge." I didn't bother responding. She still didn't get it. This was never about revenge. It was about creation versus destruction, substance versus appearance, truth versus lies. In my new office, high above Boston's financial district, I keep a photo from Madison's promotion party, the night she was celebrated while I stood in the corner, supposedly jealous of her success. I keep it to remind myself that true power doesn't need to announce itself. It builds in silence, grows in shadow, until it's ready to step into the light. Sometimes I think about that night, about Mom's words. At least one daughter made it. She was right, just not in the way she thought.